The crystalline spires of the Zephyrian palace caught the light of 3 moons, casting prismatic shadows across Princess Lyra's chambers. She stood at the window, her silver-streaked hair floating ethereally in the zero-gravity chamber, watching as another diplomatic vessel from Earth entered the atmosphere. The negotiations had been going on for months, but this time felt different. Something in the air had changed. Lyra pressed her palm against the transparent barrier, feeling the familiar tingle of stellar energy coursing through her veins. Tiny points of light danced beneath her skin, a reminder of why her own people feared her. The Zephyrians, for all their advanced technology and mastery over stellar energy, had never seen anyone who could naturally channel it without tech assistance. It made her dangerous, unpredictable, a liability to the crown. A soft chime announced the arrival of Ambassador Theron Vale, his traditional robes flowing around him as he entered through the gravity field. "Your Highness," he said, bowing slightly. "The Earth delegation has arrived. Your presence is required in the Grand Hall." Lyra turned, keeping her expression neutral despite the dread pooling in her stomach. "Another round of negotiations, Theron. Or has my mother finally decided to declare war?" The ambassador's expression remained carefully blank. "Neither, Your Highness. Today's meeting is different." The walk to the Grand Hall felt longer than usual. Guards lined the corridors, their energy weapons humming softly. Lyra noticed they stood slightly further back as she passed, their fingers twitching near triggers. Even after 22 years, they still expected her to explode like a supernova at any moment. The Grand Hall stretched before them, its ceiling a perfect replica of Zephyria's star system. Earth's delegation stood to one side, a small group in their distinctive blue uniforms. Lyra's gaze was drawn to their leader, a tall man with sharp features and calculating eyes. Commander Rylan Wade, if she remembered correctly from the intelligence briefings. High Queen Astrid sat upon the stellar throne, her face as cold and distant as the space between stars. "Approach, daughter," she commanded, her voice carrying the weight of authority enhanced by subtle technology. Lyra moved forward, feeling the eyes of both delegations upon her. The stellar energy within her responded to her anxiety, creating tiny swirls of light beneath her skin. She forced it down, knowing how it unsettled others. "The negotiations with Earth have reached a critical point," Queen Astrid announced. "Commander Wade has made an unusual request." Lyra's eyes flickered to the Earth commander, who stood with military precision, his face unreadable. Something about his steady gaze made her skin prickle. "In exchange for Earth's cooperation in the disputed Helios sector," the Queen continued, "Commander Wade has requested you, daughter." The words hit Lyra like a solar flare. She barely registered the murmurs from both delegations, her mind struggling to process the implications. "Me," she managed to say, her voice surprisingly steady. "Yes." Commander Wade spoke for the first time, his voice deeper than she expected. "Earth has been studying Zephyrian energy manipulation for years. Your unique abilities could be valuable to our research." Valuable. The word echoed in Lyra's mind. When was the last time anyone had considered her valuable? Her own people saw her as a threat, a genetic anomaly that threatened their carefully ordered society. "The Crown accepts these terms," Queen Astrid declared, not even glancing at her daughter. "Princess Lyra will be remanded to Earth's custody, effective immediately." The floor seemed to shift beneath Lyra's feet. She looked at her mother, searching for any sign of maternal concern, but found only political calculation in those familiar eyes. This wasn't a negotiation. It was an exile wrapped in diplomatic ribbons. "Your Majesty," Ambassador Vale stepped forward, his voice careful. "Perhaps we should discuss the security implications." "The decision is made," Queen Astrid cut him off. "Earth has agreed to take full responsibility for any incidents." Commander Wade moved closer to Lyra, and she noticed something unexpected in his eyes. Not fear or calculation, but curiosity. "Princess," he said softly, "you have my word that you will be treated with respect on Earth." Lyra wanted to laugh at the absurdity of it all. respect. She was being traded like a piece of technology, a bargaining chip in her mother's political games. But as she looked around the grand hall, at the guards who feared her, the courtiers who whispered about her, and the mother who saw her as a problem to be solved, she realized something important. This might be her only chance at freedom. The stellar energy within her calmed, settling into a gentle hum beneath her skin. "I accept these terms," she said clearly, watching her mother's perfect mask crack slightly in surprise. She hadn't expected compliance. "Very well." Commander Wade nodded, extending his hand in the Earth gesture of agreement. "Welcome to the Earth Defense Force, Princess Lyra." As Lyra placed her hand in his, tiny sparks of stellar energy danced between them. Wade didn't flinch away like her people would have. Instead, his eyes widened with genuine fascination. In that moment, as her fate was sealed with a handshake, Lyra realized that being her people's prize might just be her escape. But as she caught Ambassador Vale's calculating smile and her mother's too-perfect composure, she couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just about diplomatic relations. Something larger was at play, and she had just become a piece in a game she didn't yet understand. What she didn't know then was that her exile would set in motion events that would shake both Earth and Zephyria to their cores. The stellar energy flowing through her veins wasn't just an anomaly. It was the key to everything. And soon, both worlds would understand exactly what they had bargained for. Earth's gravity felt like chains around Lyra's limbs. After a lifetime in the controlled artificial gravity of Zephyria, the constant pull downward was exhausting. She stood at the window of her quarters in the Earth Defense Force headquarters, watching the sunset paint the sky in colors she'd never seen before. 3 months had passed since Commander Wade had claimed her in the diplomatic exchange. 3 months of tests, observations, and carefully controlled experiments. Dr. Nadine Santos, the lead scientist assigned to study her abilities, had proven to be unexpectedly kind, treating Lyra more like a colleague than a research subject. "Your energy signature is fascinating," Dr. Santos said now, reviewing data on her tablet as she entered the room. "It's similar to our solar panels, but somehow you're able to store and process the energy at a cellular level." Lyra turned from the window, the familiar swirls of light dancing beneath her skin. "On Zephyria, we need technology to harness stellar energy. That's why they feared me. I shouldn't be able to do this naturally." "Well, their loss is our gain." Commander Wade's voice came from the doorway. He'd shed his formal uniform for more casual military attire, something Lyra had noticed he did more often lately. "The renewable energy applications alone could revolutionize our power grid." But Lyra wasn't listening. Her attention had been caught by the data scrolling across Dr. Santos' tablet. "Wait," she moved closer, pointing to a particular reading. "That pattern. I've seen it before." Dr. Santos adjusted her glasses, frowning at the screen. "Where?" "In the royal archives. It was in the ancient texts about the founding of our dynasty." Lyra closed her eyes, remembering. "There were others like me, thousands of years ago. They were called stellar-touched." Wade moved closer, his presence solid and reassuring in a way Lyra was becoming increasingly aware of. "What happened to them?" "The records say they disappeared during the Great Technological Revolution, when we learned to harness stellar energy artificially." She paused, a cold realization settling in her stomach. But what if they didn't disappear? What if they were eliminated? The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Dr. Santos was the first to speak. "That would explain why your mother was so willing to send you away. If there's a systematic suppression of natural energy wielders." A sharp alarm cut through the air, red lights flashing in the corridors. Captain Darius Reed burst into the room, his face grim. "Commander, we have a situation. 3 unidentified ships just breached Earth's atmosphere. Zephyrian design." Wade's posture shifted instantly from casual to combat-ready. "Location?" "They're headed straight for us, sir, and they're not responding to hails." Lyra felt the stellar energy within her surge in response to her rising anxiety. "They're here for me," she said quietly. Mother would never let such valuable research material fall into Earth's hands. You're not research material, Wade snapped, surprising her with the intensity in his voice. You're under Earth's protection now. Reed, initiate Defense Protocol Delta. Dr. Santos, get Princess Lyra to the secure lab. But Lyra stood her ground. No, I'm tired of running, of being protected. I can help. To demonstrate, she let the energy flow freely through her body, illuminating the room with stellar light. They use tech to channel energy. I don't need tech. Wade studied her for a long moment, then nodded sharply. Stay close to me. Reed, tell the defense teams to expect friendly fire from within. They moved through the facility quickly, emergency lights casting everything in a red glow. Through the windows, Lyra could see the Zephyrian ships descending, their distinctive crystalline hulls reflecting the setting sun. The first explosion rocked the building before they reached the command center. Lyra stumbled, unused to the way Earth's gravity affected her balance during impacts. Wade's hand caught her elbow, steadying her. They're deploying ground forces, Reed reported, checking his tactical display. Energy weapons only. They want to take the facility intact. They want to take me intact, Lyra corrected. She could feel the hum of Zephyrian tech, the artificial way they channeled stellar energy. It felt wrong compared to the pure power flowing through her veins. The attack came from multiple directions. Zephyrian soldiers in crystalline armor breached the lower levels, their weapons charged with stolen starlight. But they weren't prepared for what awaited them. Lyra moved like a star gone supernova. The energy within her responded to her will, forming shields of pure light, launching bursts of stellar fire. She could sense the artificial channels in their weapons, and with a thought, she disrupted them, rendering their technology useless. Wade fought beside her, his conventional weapons complementing her abilities in a deadly dance. She deflected energy blasts aimed at his exposed side. He took down soldiers trying to flank her. They'd moved together as if they'd trained for years, not months. Impressive. A familiar voice cut through the chaos. Ambassador Vale stepped through the smoke, his diplomatic robes replaced by combat armor. The reports of your growth were accurate, Princess. But did you really think we'd let you reach your full potential? Lyra felt Wade tense beside her. You planned this from the start, she realized. The diplomatic exchange, my exile, it was all to see what I could do. Vale smiled, cold and calculating. Your mother sends her regards. And her orders. He raised his hand, revealing a device Lyra had never seen before. It's time to come home, Your Highness. The device pulsed with artificial stellar energy, but something was wrong. The frequency was wrong, discordant. Lyra felt it trying to connect with her natural energy, trying to suppress it, control it. Pain lanced through her body. She fell to her knees, the light beneath her skin flickering erratically. Through blurring vision, she saw Wade raise his weapon, saw veiled soldiers moving in. No, she gasped, feeling something deep inside her respond to the attack. Not just her power, but something older, something that had been sleeping in her genes for generations. The pain crystallized into clarity. She reached out, not with her hands, but with her consciousness, and touched the artificial stellar energy surrounding her. And then she did something that should have been impossible. She took control of it. Vale's device exploded in a burst of light. The soldiers' weapons overloaded, their armor systems failing. The ambassador stumbled back, real fear replacing his confidence. Impossible, he whispered. The suppressors always worked before. Lyra stood, stellar energy swirling around her like a storm of stars. Tell my mother, she said, her voice carrying the weight of centuries, that the stellar touched remember what was done to them, and we will not be controlled again. Vale fled, his remaining forces retreating to their ships. Wade ordered Reed not to pursue. They needed to secure the facility first. As the chaos subsided, Wade turned to Lyra, who was still glowing with residual power. Are you all right? She looked at her hands, watching the light dance beneath her skin. I think I finally understand why they feared us so much. We're not just channeling stellar energy. We're evolving to become one with it. She met his gaze. And I don't think I'm the only one left. Dr. Santos burst into the room, her tablet clutched to her chest. You need to see this, she said breathlessly. During the attack, we picked up energy signatures all over the planet. Dozens of them, all responding to Lyra's power surge. There are others like her, hiding right here on Earth. Wade looked between the scientist and the princess, understanding dawning in his eyes. This isn't just about diplomatic relations anymore, is it? Lyra shook her head, feeling the weight of destiny settling on her shoulders. No, this is about survival. Mine, Earth's, and maybe even Zephyria's. She took a deep breath, tasting the heavy Earth air. And I think this is just the beginning. In orbit, Vale's ships disappeared into hyperspace, carrying news back to Zephyria that would shake the foundations of their society. The stellar touched weren't gone. They were awakening. And this time, they wouldn't be silenced. The underground facility beneath Denver buzzed with activity as newly discovered stellar-touched individuals arrived from across the globe. Lyra watched through one-way glass as a young man demonstrated his abilities, solar energy coursing through him in waves of golden light. That's the 12th one this week, Dr. Santos said, making notes on her ever-present tablet. Each one with slightly different manifestations of the ability. James there can actually convert stellar energy into healing power. Lyra pressed her hand against the glass, feeling the resonance of his energy with her own. On Zephyria, they taught us we were alone. That natural energy wielders were extinct. But they're everywhere, just waiting to be awakened. Commander Wade stood behind her, close enough that she could feel his warmth. The question is, why now? What triggered this sudden emergence? I have a theory about that. Dr. Santos pulled up a complex diagram on the main screen. Look at these solar activity readings from the past year. There's been an unprecedented increase in stellar radiation reaching Earth. Our atmosphere normally filters most of it out, but Zephyria's atmosphere is much thinner. Lyra finished, understanding dawning. They've been artificially suppressing their population's exposure to stellar energy for generations, controlling it, filtering it. A soft chime interrupted them. Captain Reed's face appeared on the communication screen, his expression tense. Commander, we're picking up unusual activity in lunar orbit. Multiple Zephyrian signatures, but they're not moving like ships. Wade straightened, his military training taking over. Show me. The screen split, showing grainy footage from Earth's orbital defense satellites. Crystalline structures were assembling themselves in space, forming a complex geometric pattern. Lyra felt her blood run cold. No, she whispered. They wouldn't dare. What is it? Wade asked, noting her reaction. It's a stellar suppression array, the same technology they use on Zephyria, but massive. Her voice shook slightly. They're going to try to cut Earth off from stellar energy completely. Dr. Santos' fingers flew across her tablet. The environmental impact would be catastrophic, not just for the stellar touched, but for all life on Earth. We evolved with this energy. We need it. They don't care, Lyra said bitterly. They're so afraid of losing control that they'd rather destroy an entire world. She turned to Wade, stellar energy flickering beneath her skin. We have to stop them. Before Wade could respond, alarms blared throughout the facility. Reed's voice came through again, urgent now. Multiple breaches detected. They're using some kind of energy-based teleportation technology. The lights flickered as the first explosion rocked the underground complex. Wade grabbed Lyra's arm, pulling her toward the door. We need to get you to safety. But Lyra planted her feet. No, I'm done running. She reached out with her senses, feeling the artificial energy signatures of the intruders. There's something else you need to know. Something I discovered while studying the ancient texts in your archives. Another explosion, closer now. They could hear weapons fire in the corridors. The stellar touch didn't just channel energy. Lyra continued, her voice steady despite the chaos. They could share it, amplify each other. That's why they were so dangerous. They could work together in ways technology couldn't match. Understanding dawned in Dr. Santos' eyes. The other awakened ones. Lyra nodded. Get them all to the main chamber. Now. Wade studied her face for a moment, then turned to read on the screen. Do it. Emergency protocol echo. Get every stellar touched we found to the central chamber. They ran through the corridors, passing defenders engaged with crystalline armored Zephyrian troops. Lyra could feel the artificial energy weapons they wielded, could sense the wrongness of their forced channeling. The main chamber was a vast, circular room, originally designed for large-scale experiments. Now it filled with people, men and women of all ages, all bearing the distinctive glow of stellar energy beneath their skin. Listen to me, Lyra addressed them, her voice carrying with authority she didn't know she possessed. You are not mistakes. You are not alone. You are the next step in human evolution, a bridge between humanity and the stars themselves. The chamber shook as more explosions rocked the facility. Through the high windows, they could see the stellar suppression array taking shape in the sky, its crystal facets catching the sunlight. They want to cut us off from the stars, Lyra continued, to suppress what we are, what we can become. But together, we are stronger than any technology they can build. She held out her hands. Take my hands. Feel the energy that flows through all of us. Let it connect us, strengthen us. One by one, they joined hands, forming a circle. Lyra felt the energy begin to flow, not just through her, but through all of them. It was like nothing she'd ever experienced. A symphony of power, each person's unique signature harmonizing with the others. Wade watched in awe as the room filled with light. The stellar touch began to glow, their combined energy creating patterns in the air that mirrored the movements of stars. Through their connected consciousness, Lyra could sense the Zephyrian troops falling back, overwhelmed by the surge of natural energy. Above, the crystalline array began to vibrate at a frequency that threatened to tear it apart. But something else was happening too. As their power grew, Lyra began to receive flashes of memory, not her own, but genetic memories passed down through generations. She saw the truth of what had happened on Zephyria, why the stellar touch had been suppressed. They're afraid, she gasped, the memories flooding through her. Not just of our power, but of what we represent. We're proof that their way isn't the only way. That humanity can evolve beyond technology, beyond artificial control. The array in orbit shattered, its crystalline shards burning up in the atmosphere like falling stars. But the victory felt hollow as the full weight of the memories settled in Lyra's mind. There's more, she told Wade as the other stellar touched slowly recovered from the energy sharing. What happened on Zephyria? It wasn't just about control. They're hiding something. Something about where our powers really come from, and what they mean for the future of both our worlds. Dr. Santos was already analyzing the data from their connection. The energy readings are off the charts. But there's something else, some kind of quantum signature I've never seen before. Because it's not from Earth or Zephyria, Lyra said quietly. It's from somewhere much further away. And I think whatever gave us these abilities is coming back. Wade looked at her, seeing not just the princess he'd won in a diplomatic exchange, but something more. A leader, a bridge between worlds, and possibly the key to humanity's next great leap forward. How long do we have? He asked. Lyra looked up through the chamber's windows at the stars becoming visible in the darkening sky. Not long. The stellar anomalies, the awakening of dormant abilities, they're not random. They're a warning, or maybe an invitation. In orbit, the last pieces of the suppression array burned away, but on Zephyria, alarms were already sounding. High Queen Astrid received the news of the array's destruction with unusual calm, as if she'd expected it all along. So it begins, she murmured, watching the stellar activity readings spike across both worlds. The Harbinger has awakened them. Now we can only wait for what follows. The ancient archives beneath the Zephyrian Palace held secrets in crystalline memory cores, their surfaces dark with age. High Queen Astrid moved through the shadowed chambers alone, her fingers trailing over symbols that hadn't been read in generations. She paused before a particular crystal, its surface clouded but still faintly pulsing with stored information. "I knew you'd come here eventually." Ambassador Vale's voice echoed through the chamber. "The awakening of the stellar touched on Earth changes everything, doesn't it?" Astrid didn't turn. "You failed me, Theron. The suppression array was our last chance to contain this." "Was it?" Vale stepped closer, his footsteps unnaturally quiet. "Or was that just another move in your game? You knew Lyra would unite them. You knew the array would fail." Now the Queen turned, her eyes reflecting the dim light of the memory crystals. "Everything I've done has been to prepare for what's coming, even sending my own daughter away." Meanwhile, on Earth, Lyra stood in the command center of the Denver facility, watching as Dr. Santos presented her latest findings to Commander Wade and the gathered military leadership. "The quantum signatures we detected during the collective energy event match ancient readings preserved in Zephyrian records," Dr. Santos explained, gesturing to complex diagrams. "But they also match something else, signals we've been detecting from deep space." "How deep?" Wade asked, his hand unconsciously moving closer to Lyra's. "Beyond the edge of known space," Lyra answered for her, "where the Ancient Ones first found us." The room fell silent. Captain Reed was the first to speak. "Found us." Lyra nodded, the memories she'd accessed during the energy meld becoming clearer. Humanity, both Earth humans and Zephyrians, were not just random evolutionary branches. We were seeded here by beings who could manipulate the very essence of stars. "That's impossible," one of the generals protested. "We have fossil records, evolutionary evidence." "They didn't create us," Lyra interrupted. "They modified us. Added potential that would remain dormant until the right moment. The Zephyrians chose to suppress that potential, to rely on technology instead. But Earth let it evolve naturally." Dr. Santos pulled up new data on the main screen. "These energy signatures have been increasing exponentially. Whatever's out there, it's getting closer." A sudden alert flashed across the screens. Reed rushed to his console. Multiple hyperspace ruptures detected. Zephyrian warships, at least 20 of them. "Not just ships," Lyra said quietly, feeling the surge of artificial stellar energy. "The entire royal fleet." The ships emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, their crystalline hulls reflecting Earth's sun. At their center was the royal flagship, twice the size of the others, its surface etched with the symbols of the Zephyrian crown. "They're broadcasting," Reed reported. It's Queen Astrid herself." The Queen's image appeared on the main screen, her regal features composed but showing signs of strain that Lyra had never seen before. "People of Earth," Astrid began, "what I am about to tell you has been hidden for thousands of years. The awakening of the stellar touched is not a natural evolution. It is a response to a signal we have been dreading since we first discovered the truth about our origins." Lyra felt Wade's hand find hers as her mother continued. "The beings who seeded our worlds with the potential for stellar energy manipulation are returning, but they are not coming as friends. They are coming to harvest what they planted." The command center erupted in questions, but Lyra's voice cut through the chaos. "You knew. All this time, you knew what was coming. That's why you sent me to Earth." "Yes," Astrid admitted, her mask of composure cracking slightly. "Earth's natural development of stellar abilities made it the perfect testing ground. We needed to know if the stellar touched could be strong enough to resist what's coming. By suppressing us? By trying to cut Earth off from stellar energy completely?" Wade demanded. "The array wasn't meant to suppress." Vale's voice came from off-screen. "It was meant to channel, to create a weapon powerful enough to defend against the harvesters." Dr. Santos' tablet chimed urgently. The deep space signals. They're changing. Multiple objects entering the solar system at impossible speeds. Lyra closed her eyes, feeling something vast and ancient brush against her consciousness. They're here. The sensors confirmed it moments later. Massive ships, unlike anything Earth or Zephyria had ever seen, emerged from the darkness beyond Pluto's orbit. They moved like liquid stars, their very substance seeming to bend reality around them. All stellar-touched individuals are to report to their designated safe zones immediately. Wade ordered, military training taking over. Dr. Santos, coordinate with the Zephyrian science team. We need to understand what we're dealing with. But Lyra stood motionless, her eyes fixed on the approaching ships. The stellar energy within her was responding to their presence, resonating at frequencies that made her very atoms sing. Lyra? Wade's voice seemed distant. What is it? They're not just coming to harvest us, she whispered. They're coming to complete the transformation. The stellar touched. We're not the end result. We're just the beginning. Queen Astrid's image flickered as interference from the approaching ships grew stronger. Daughter, listen carefully. In the royal archives, there's a crystal marked with the symbol of the first dawn. It contains everything we know about their first visit, including. The transmission cut off as the nearest harvester ship released a pulse of energy that disrupted all communications. The sky above Earth filled with shifting patterns of light as more ships emerged from hyperspace. Orders, Commander? Reed asked, his voice steady despite the unprecedented situation. Wade looked at Lyra, seeing the stellar energy beneath her skin pulsing in time with the distant ships. We need to get to Zephyria. Whatever's in those archives might be our only chance to understand what we're really facing. The harvesters will reach Earth in less than 6 hours, Dr. Santos reported. And the energy readings, they're like nothing we've ever seen. It's as if they're made of pure stellar power. Lyra finally turned from the window, her eyes glowing with internal light. Then it's time to show them that what they planted has grown into something they didn't expect, something that won't be harvested or controlled. She reached out, connecting with the network of stellar touched across the planet. Their combined consciousness hummed with shared purpose and growing power. We're not just fighting for Earth or Zephyria anymore, she said, her voice carrying through both the physical room and the mental link. We're fighting for humanity's right to choose its own evolution. In orbit, the Zephyrian royal fleet moved to flank Earth's defensive positions. Ancient enemies united before a greater threat. But as the harvester ships drew closer, Lyra couldn't shake the feeling that conventional weapons, even stellar energy weapons, wouldn't be enough. The true battle would be fought on a level that neither Earth nor Zephyria fully understood. And the key to victory lay buried in crystal memories beneath a distant palace, waiting to reveal secrets that would change both worlds forever. The royal archives of Zephyria burned with stellar fire as Lyra forced her way through the ancient security systems. Behind her, Commander Wade and Captain Reed held off waves of automated defenses, their weapons modified with Dr. Santos's latest stellar energy upgrades. The harvester ships loomed in both Earth's and Zephyria's skies, their presence distorting the very fabric of space around them. The crystal should be in the restricted section, Lyra called out, her powers flaring to deflect a security beam. Mother said it would be marked with the symbol of the first dawn. Assuming she was telling the truth, Wade replied, ducking behind a crystalline column. This could still be part of her plan. Lyra paused at an intersection of corridors, feeling the pulse of stored information around her. No, she was genuine. For once in her life, she was actually afraid. The Queen herself was coordinating the combined Earth-Zephyrian fleet in orbit, preparing for what might be humanity's last stand. The harvester ships had already demonstrated their power, turning one of Zephyria's outer colonies into stellar dust with a single energy pulse. There, Dr. Santos pointed to a small alcove where a single crystal glowed with an internal light different from the others. Its surface bore an etching of a rising sun. Lyra approached it carefully, remembering the genetic memories that had surfaced during the collective joining of stellar-touched powers. Her fingers trembled as they touched the crystal's surface. Information flooded her mind, not just data, but experiences, memories preserved from the first contact thousands of years ago. She saw them clearly now, the beings of pure stellar energy who had visited Earth and Zephyria, who had seen potential in the primitive humans of both worlds. They weren't planning to harvest us, she gasped, the truth unfolding in her mind. They were preparing us. The stellar manipulation abilities, the dormant genetic potential, it wasn't about creating a crop to harvest. It was about evolution. Evolution into what? Wade moved closer, concerned by the intensity of light now emanating from her skin. Before Lyra could answer, the archive chamber shook violently. Through the crystal ceiling, they could see one of the harvester ships positioning itself directly above the palace. They're going to fire, Reed warned, checking his tactical display. Energy surge detected. But Lyra stood calmly, still connected to the ancient crystal. No, she said softly. They're trying to communicate. A beam of pure stellar energy punched through the palace defenses, engulfing Lyra in light that would have vaporized a normal human. Wade tried to reach her, but was held back by an invisible force. In that moment of connection, Lyra finally understood. The beings hadn't come to destroy or harvest. They had come to witness. The genetic modifications they had made so long ago were designed to give humanity a choice: remain as they were, or evolve into something greater. The Zephyrians had chosen technology, artificially replicating stellar manipulation rather than letting it develop naturally. But Earth's humans had embraced the change, allowing the dormant genes to awaken naturally over generations. Through her connection with the other stellar touched, Lyra broadcast the truth to both worlds. The harvester ships weren't weapons. They were gateways, offering access to a level of existence humanity had only glimpsed in dreams. They're asking us to join them, she told Wade as the light receded. Not as servants or subjects, but as equals. We've proven ourselves worthy by choosing our own path. Above both worlds, the harvester ships began to shift, their forms becoming more comprehensible to human eyes. They were living ships, beings of pure stellar energy who had evolved beyond physical form ages ago. High Queen Astrid's voice crackled through the command channels. The outer colonies report similar contact. They're not attacking. They're waiting. Waiting for what? Wade asked, though he suspected he already knew. For our choice, Lyra replied. It won't force evolution on us, just as they didn't force it thousands of years ago. We have to choose to take the next step.